How's everybody doing, and welcome to the fish room. Today I'm going through a little bit different. I'm on my water change schedule, but this week I thought I'd skip water changes and I'm going to clean my sponge filters. So keep watching the video. I'm going to talk about some things about having a balanced aquarium, making sure you have a nice clean tank. Why are you doing certain things? Should you change 25%, 50% every week, every month, all that good stuff. So if you want to kind of follow along, learn some things about that, be a little bit more of an informative video, but just kind of been slacking on my videos. I got a few ideas I want to talk about and kind of show you some things, but let's go ahead. We'll start cleaning some sponge filters, and I'm going to talk about what we're doing here today. For any of you guys new to the channel, here's the fish room, kind of a quick overview. Everything's in the same room. I run them off of air, and they go into a sponge filter. That's what I'm filtering the tanks. The room is heated. I have 10 gallons, 20 gallon longs, what we see here now. Some 40 gallon breeders over there. On my custom rack over here I have some wrought iron stands I bought, and those hold some 10s, 29s, and 55s. I have around 43 aquariums, a few small fry tanks. So just a little quick overview of what I have going on here. If you guys want to stay tuned, make sure you go below, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when I upload a video. But let's go ahead. Right here I have these 8 20-gallon aquariums. I cleaned them all yesterday, wrung out the sponge filters, probably took about a gallon of water out of the tanks, and I did not add water back or siphon water out. And I'll kind of show what I'm doing there. And I also did on this 20-gallon aquarium, which will be moving soon. Over here I talked about in an older video. I'm going to put that on the stand. I'm going to build a water holding tank there. Stay tuned for that stuff. I'll be doing that next few weeks. And the 55-gallon tank has 2 different types of sponge filters. Those both got cleaned yesterday. But as for right now, I'm working on these 8 20-gallon tanks. So I've already done this side and that top tank. I have these 3 to go, and then I'm going to keep working my way through the fish room. But I figured on these 3 it's easier for me to videotape. I'm going to show you how I actually remove the sponge filter and clean it the best way I think possible, and kind of just explain to you the chemistry and see the results of if I were to go through and drain this tank 80% and fill it back up, I might be better off just cleaning the sponge filter instead of doing that massive water change, because all you're really doing when you're doing a water change, you want to remove fish waste and nitrates to keep your water nice and clean, not get a high buildup of nitrates. But if all the waste is in your filter and you're just changing clean water, you're kind of losing the point. So that's kind of what I want to show you guys today, how every once in a while skip a water change, just clean your filters, and kind of you can see the results of it. So let's go ahead. We got this tank right here. We're going to remove the sponge filter, show you how we do that. So just looking at one tank at a time, all you're going to need to do the cleaning, I have a 5-gallon bucket here, a little container here that I'm actually going to pull the sponge filter out as soon as it comes out of the water, so I'm not draining the dirty water back in. And then I have a cup here that I'm going to rinse it at the end. So I have to remove the lid. What I've been doing, I've been taking 2 scoops of this, make sure you're not scooping up any fish. And it turns out to be around a gallon of water. I think this is like a half gallon, so putting this tank water into the 5-gallon bucket. 2 of those will fill it up enough where I can wring out the sponge filter. Once I have those 2 cups of water, you can disconnect your air line, pull the sponge filter up, make sure there's no pleco still on there, and I'll put it inside the container. People have used bags. You can put a bag in there, but I think it's a lot more hassle. This is pretty easy to get it removed. It starts draining water. Here you can see how the water is pretty clean in this bucket. That's all tank water. To pull the sponge filter apart, it actually comes into like 4 or 5 parts if you're really going to break it down. Here's the bottom I pulled off, and then also this will come apart. So I rinse all this off in the water, just if there's any snails and just any debris in there. Clean that stuff off first. Go ahead, pull your sponge filter out of the main like plastic part here. I have a lot of snails and stuff, kind of like nuisance snails. I'll rinse this out, and this part's good to go. Whenever you're assembling this, this is one thing it took me a while to kind of figure out. Not a big deal if you have a lot of air pressure. But you see these little grooves in there in the top of the sponge filter. I'm not sure if you can see, like right here. There's grooves at the top. You want to line those up so they match. That's going to allow more airflow. If it's turned and they're not lining up, you're going to get more restriction and they're not going to pump as much air through it. So make sure those are lined up, snap it into connection there. There's our top piece. And then for the bottom, you're not going to put it all together till you're finished, but put the bottom back on. And then same thing, it has those little grooves at the top. You want to line up with your other piece. That's all taken apart and done with. Now we just have our sponge filter. And all you have to do now is ring it up and see how clean the water is and see how dirty it gets. Just by grabbing the sponge and wringing it out, I mean, there's nothing real fancy about this, but see how dirty that water gets? That's all old fish waste, nitrates, ammonia, anything in your tank you're trying to remove in a water change, it's actually going to be in your filtration. So whether you have a hang on the back filter, whether you have bio balls in the sump, make sure you go through and you clean that stuff out. And you want to use it in tank water, just rinse it out as best as you can inside of tank water. And see how dirty that water just got? By me doing a huge water change, there's no way I'm going to remove all that waste. And I don't clean my sponge filters often, so that's why they're so dirty. But I do large water changes every week, and every once in a while it's important to skip that water change and clean your sponge filter. So now that I've wrung it out, I can't keep wringing it out because that water's pretty dirty. This is where I'll get my cup of tank water, and I'll just rinse it through the top, let it drain out the bottom back into the bucket. I'll do that about 2 times, and then wring it out one more time. After that clean water rinse through it, I'll squeeze it out one more time. And this is just because I have so many tanks and I'm trying to do them all within a reasonable manner. I could repeat this process like a few times, but I don't want to strip all that waste and all that bacteria out of this. That's why I'm not using sink water. I'm using the chlorinated established tank water. So this sponge is all ready to go. Slide your top back in, give yourself a little bit of slack, and you want to make sure you see those grooves at the bottom. If you can see them on the camera, I want to line those up with the other part, snap it in. Now we're good to just add our air stone and put this back in the tank. Alright, there you have it. So it's a little bit stirred up because I dropped the sponge back in there. But that only took me a few minutes versus doing a water change. You're saving water. You're actually doing a lot more benefit for your fish in your aquarium. Just by cleaning that sponge filter out. I don't even have to change water now. My water level on this tank is a little bit lower. I keep it around here. So I only lost about ½ inch of water. If I wanted to top that off, I can, but honestly, I'll probably wait till next week to fill it back up. In a display tank, obviously you're going to top the tank off, but I just did a huge water change in a sense by just cleaning the sponge filter. You can see how dirty that water is from that one tank. I've cleaned these 5 tanks right here, 4 and 1 over. These have all been cleaned. I just dumped them into these buckets, and there's no way by doing a water change or gravel vacs or whatever it may be that I was going to get this much dirty water out of those tanks. And this stuff's great if you want to add this to your garden, or if you want to just you can just dump it down the drain. But water like this has a lot of nitrates, a lot of fish waste. It's like a fertilizer. If you have a planted tank, if you want to start up a new aquarium, if I added a bucket of this water into a gravel tank, say you have a 55-gallon tank, brand new from the store, dump that water in the bottom, cover it with gravel, and then fill it up, that tank's going to cycle almost instantly because it has so much beneficial bacteria. It has waste in it, but it's established. So stuff like that's really important if you want to jump from new tank to new tank and kind of recycle an aquarium. Sponge filters are very helpful for that. And it doesn't have to be a sponge filter, but anything that's going to grow, it's going to have a surface area, which a sponge has tons of it. Whether it's bio balls or it's a hang on the back filter with a bio wheel, anything that can kind of hold all of that waste where you grab and you wring it out and it's going to release waste that's been trapped in there, it has a lot of surface area and it's going to grow bacteria. So definitely very beneficial, but cleaning stuff like that's going to be more important than a water change at times, because I'm going to go through and clean this sponge, but typically I'm draining this tank about 75%, 50% on a big water change. And you don't really need to always do it. So it comes back to what I was talking about, why we're doing certain things. Make sure you know the purpose of a water change or cleaning a filter. Don't do too much, but also don't get so sidetracked on a certain percentage of a water change that you lose track of oh, that filter is filthy, or this gravel needs a gravel vac. Things like that are much more important, where you can do a 5% water change. You may change 5 gallons of water versus 40 gallons of water, and you're actually going to do more benefit to your aquarium and your fish. Hope that's helpful for you guys and kind of interesting, but every time I clean a sponge filter, I kind of forget how long they've been in the tanks and how much waste really builds up in there. My tanks have been doing well, the fish are fine, nothing's wrong in the aquariums. I could have done my normal weekly water changes, and to be honest, cleaning the filters takes longer than changing all that water. So I would have been done by water changes by now, but I'm only halfway through all my sponges cleaning, or whatever you want to call it. But just want to kind of share with you guys. I know I haven't done a video in a while, but I got a lot more work to do here. Hope you guys appreciate me chiming in. If you're not already, go below, subscribe. Check out my website at biancosfish.com. It'll all be in the description. If you have any questions, comment me below. You can email me at biancosfish@gmail.com. But thank you all for watching, and check out some of my older videos at the end of this video. Thanks again. And also comment below on how big your tank is, what your filter is, how often you change the water. I want to know what you guys are doing at home. Do you have a sponge filter hang on the back? How often are you changing that water? So I'm curious what's working for other people. I always have an open mind on doing things differently in the fish room. As long as the fish are healthy, the fish are breeding, I'm willing to try anything. So don't get stuck in your ways. Try something different. Make sure you're taking care of your tanks. But thanks again for watching, guys, and stay tuned for the next video.